you see Marlene, Dr. Ferido, and Dr. Tan in the other side. I'm actually seated at the Information Science Laboratory meeting room. Dr. Ferido is also at the Information Science Laboratory in the lab proper in the teacher's desk. And Dr. Tan is coming from the staff room of the high school Earth Science group. Alright, so tuloy-tuloy na po. I'm seeing more people joining us. So at this point, I'd like to turn you over to our first speaker. We will be shifting to her presentation in a short while. So meanwhile, may I close the videos? Alright, so the camera pads I will close at this point and turn you over to Dr. Merle Tan for the first part of our webinar. Okay, so again, I remind everyone, feel free to write down your questions in the chat pod, and we will be answering them shortly. Alright, so we will have Dr. Tan again. You can activate you can start your webcam now, ma'am. Alright, so while Dr. Tan is setting up her webcam, I'd like to introduce her to you. Dr. Merle C. Tan is a science education specialist here at the UP NISMED. She has served as our director for the past 9 years, and she's the immediate past director of UP NISMED, also acting as the convener for science in the K-12 basic education program, to present to us the philosophy of the K-12 curriculum and other other key features of the science curriculum in the K-12 program. It is my pride to present to everyone Dr. Merle C. Tan. Ma'am, take it away.
Hello, good afternoon, fellow teachers. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to be able to present to you the philosophy of the science in the K-12, and I hope this will clarify some of the issues that had been raised so that implementation of this program will be done smoothly. Let me start my presentation with the conceptual framework for K-12. If you look at the diagram, there are actually 3 areas that you want to focus on, which is shown in the triangle, the 3 triangles there. The first is on the understanding of science knowledge. The second on the acquisition of process skills, inquiry skills, and the third is acquisition of scientific attitudes and values. This can only be achieved by providing them with experiences that will make them become skilled as effective communicator, critical and creative problem solver, responsible stewards of nature. These are the 21st century skills that surround the 3 triangles that are in the inner circle. This will hopefully result in the development of a scientific and technological, environmental literate individuals who can make decisions for themselves and for the community. So this science framework is based on a formulated standard for K-12, basically to develop the basic science concepts, the inquiry skills, and, as I said, scientific attitudes and values. We hope that this will lead to a manifestation of respect for life and the environment, bearing in mind that Earth is our only home. In the K-12, we have identified key stage standards. at the end of grade 3, at the end of grade 6, at the end of grade 10, and at the end of grade 12. At the end of grade 3, basically we want our students to develop curiosity about themselves and of the environment, but they have to develop basic processes skills of observing, communicating, and others. We know that science is an important tool in exploring the natural and the physical environment. At the end of grade 6, we have already identified skills that would lead them to develop scientific inquiry, make meaning of the observation and changes that occur in the environment so that they will maintain good health, ensure the protection and improvement of the environment, and practice safety measures.
Okay, Dr. Tan. We are having some audio problems from our attendees. So at this point, may I cut off the camera and voice just so we don't fill everybody's bandwidth. At this point, I'd just like to show your picture on the screen and cut the camera at this point. Okay, sandali lang po, ma'am. Sandali lang po, everyone. All right. So there you are. That's supposed to solve the audio problem now. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So at the end of grade 10, students are expected to be more, to have already acquired the scientific literacy skills and develop the inquiry processes that will help them solve local as well as national and using appropriate technology whenever possible. And at the end of grade 12, which is the 2-year extension, 11 and 12, which is 2-year extension of the K to our original basic education, we would have them develop some innovative skills to create products that can help solve problems in the community as well as in the country. So let me go back to the components, the 3 components of the science curriculum. As we said, they have to develop inquiry skills, and inquiry skills is not nothing new to you. It's us asking questions, designing and conducting investigations, employing different strategies to obtain information, and being able to communicate results of this investigation using, as we said, appropriate presentation skills. Inquiry skills are skills that all people are required to have because these are skills that are used to survive. These are skills for lifelong learning. The second component of the K-12 is its content and connections. In this K-12, we have arranged that every quarter there is a special focus in terms of discipline. So the four areas are living things and the environment, which is basically biological or life science. The second topic is on force, motion, and energy, or in the physical sciences area. The third is on matter, which is chemical sciences and nature. And the fourth is on earth and space, which will tackle our surroundings, weather and climate, and the solar system. The sequence may vary from grade to grade. We can start with chemistry or physics or biology or chemistry, depending on the prerequisites that are needed for the storyline that we have developed for the grade level. And the third component of development of scientific attitudes and values, and that as they do the hands-on activities, they are going to develop the scientific attitudes that are required, such as intellectual honesty, objectivity, the aim for accuracy. We want them to develop active listening skills, taking responsibility, and independent learning so that they can solve some of their problems on their own or as a group. To summarize the features of the K-12, it is the following. It is inquiry-based. It is learner-centered because we focus on hands-on activities. and activities that are using varied strategies. It is research-based because we have put in place some of the topics that are following the cognitive level of development of the children, and we hope that this science curriculum will indeed be decongested, because that has been the problem in the past, that we cannot cover all the concepts and the skills that we want because there are just too many for the grade level. In addition, we want our curriculum to show the link between science, technology, and everyday life, the link between science and other subject areas, and we want them to appreciate the how science processes and skills are intertwined, and of course how the topics will be spiraled from grade 3 or from grade 1 to grade 10, even to grade 12 as we move along the grade levels. So why do we focus on spiral progression? For many of you, I think have understood what spiral progression is based on the chat that I'm reading here. So we just want to emphasize that in a spiral progression approach, the scope and sequence of the content are developed carefully from one grade level to the next. So it is revisited at each grade level and with increasing depth. That's why it's spiral. It is revisited at every grade level and progression with increasing depth. So new concepts are built on pupils' pupil knowledge and skills to allow gradual mastery from one grade level to the next. So we don't start a topic without trying to determine what the students already know and can do based on that topic. Let me just show you a sample of how progression is done. In the area of living things and the environment, the focus is on parts and function, which is structure, and the processes and interactions involved among living things and with their environment. So if we start at grade 3, we start with the external parts of the human body, move on to the internal parts, look at the organ systems that have specific functions, and the interactions. You'll note that even the growth and development of human beings, animals, and plants are done in an integrated manner. For matter, the focus is on property, structure, and changes. And I just mentioned here how the property or the content is moved or developed from grade 7 to grade 8 to grade 9 to grade 10. You will also take note that some of the topics that are in grade 8 before or grade 9 before, which is chemistry, has been moved to grade 10 because of the complexity of the topics and the requirements in terms of content and the skills that we need to develop. But we have introduced topics that are more integrated in nature. Biological industrial processes that affect life and the environment are already in grade 10. These topics on grade 7 will be introduced to you more by the next presentation. So what are the benefits of the spiral progression integrated science approach in the K-12? We wanted to see a seamless science curriculum from elementary to high school, because we know that in the past, the elementary students or the teachers even don't know what's happening in the elementary or what the elementary does not know what they're expected that students expected to bring to high school. We want to develop also science concepts and skills that are appropriate to the developmental and cognitive stages of the children, and the other things, interrelatedness of science topics across the curriculum or across science topics and across other subject areas. But most of all, we wanted to strengthen the retention and mastery of topics and skills to enable DepEd to benchmark Filipino students with their counterparts in other countries. You remember that we have been participating in international studies to see how we compare with our performance with students at the same age in other countries. And I think most of all, the science curriculum that we have developed or we are trying to implement will help as well teachers who are non-majors in science develop their confidence, because as they revisit the concepts at every grade level, they also learn these concepts with depth. The other area that we are concerned of is the flexibility in terms of sequencing the content in every quarter. I think I mentioned earlier that you can, we are proposing that every grade level will have a different topic focus for every quarter, so that we can allow the development, or we can help the children develop the skills as well as the content that they need for succeeding topics. In our curriculum, we have addressed the lack of science equipment because alternative procedures are provided. If you have a microscope, then you can do it, but if you don't have, then we will teach you some activities, or we'll show you some activities that will show the same concept, even if without some sophisticated equipment. All activities are done micro scale, and the equipment suggested are easily available in the community. And the last, I think the most important benefit of doing a spiral progression is that it will also help teachers address their misconceptions, because many of the teachers are saying to us that their content are not very steep, so that we will help them address the misconceptions in the lesson plans that we will prepare for them. Let's move on to the science after grade 10. There are 2 years of science in the basic ed that had been proposed, is 11 and 12. And what are we preparing for 11 and 12? After grade 10, our students in science will take 2 natural science subjects, which is chemistry and physics as NATSCHI 1, and biology and earth science as NATSCHI 2. This is required for all students, whether they go to the academic stream, or to TESDA, or they go to entrepreneurship after grade 12. But for those going to the university, they will be required to take basic biology, chemistry, and physics, which will help them become ready for college work. There are other information here that we would like to present to you, but the answers will depend on some questions that we like, because if you still don't, you cannot explain, for example, what is the difference between the old and the new, then maybe you can just ask questions so that we can refer you to some slides that we have prepared related to these questions. I think some of these questions that are here, I don't know if you have to answer them now, but maybe we can reserve this for the question and answer later. As Ms. Balbin has explained earlier, there will be a session on just answering the questions that you have raised. You think this is enough information that we can share with our participants in this webinar series? Because the next presentation will actually focus on how grade 7 will be introduced, although they have introduced it in the first quarter already, and maybe a little bit of how we will develop the grade 8 and so on. Can I bring this back to our host, Ms. Elia? For now, the materials that are ready are for grade 7. We have distributed the first and second quarter that were used in summer. And the third and fourth quarters will be by the end of this month will be at DepEd, at the IMCS, so that they will be distributed to you before the start of the third quarter in October. But what we would like to highlight is that our activities are really hands-on. It's an inquiry-based, so that we develop lifelong learning as well as the 21st century skills that we have been talking about. So this slide that is being shown to you on your screen is actually a comparison of the old science curriculum, which is the basic education curriculum that was done in 2002, and the present curriculum. So it's basically how science is entered in the early grades, how we sequence the learning of this content and skills, in terms of breadth and depth of content, the approaches that we use to teaching and learning, and the kinds of classroom assessment that need to be improved based on the old curriculum.
Okay, so at this point, we would like to thank Dr. Tan for her share of this afternoon's presentations. More details later on about the comparison, the differences between the old curriculum and the present K-12 science curriculum as your questions come in. Alright, so at this point, we would like to thank Dr. Tan again for
Thank you very much.
for obliging to be part of this webinar series this afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Tan. And we will also now move on to our next presentation to be given to us by Dr. Marlene Ferido. Dr. Ferido is the chair of our chemistry education group, and she's also one of the writers for the student modules and the teacher's guides. Dr. Ferido is also co-convenor of the science curriculum for K-12 basic education program. So let me at this point switch to her presentation. Thank you, Dr. Tan. Alright, so I will just put up Dr. Ferido's presentation at this point. I see more people are coming in to join. Right, so that's Dr. Ferido. At this point, you have seen her earlier during the welcome and the greeting session. We will not be putting up her webcam just so you will not have problems with the bandwidth. Earlier, we had some difficulty for some people in their audio. Now we will just go directly to the audio, and we will be starting shortly on the presentation of Dr. Ferido. Dr. Ferido will talk about science in grade 7, zooming in on the storyline of the science curriculum, as well as a zoom in also on the different quarters in grade 7. So, Dr. Ferido, take it away, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the webinar on K-12. I'd like to zero in on what are the contents of science in grade 7. There is really a thread that weaves through grade 7 science. The concepts in the curriculum guide, which have been given by DepEd, somehow form a storyline for grade 7. Grade 7 science is all about diversity, the diversity of living things in the environment, and the diversity of the materials or the non-living things in the environment. While it's focusing on diversity, students will appreciate the variety of organisms as well as the natural and processed materials on Earth. The immense diversity of living forms, of geologic structures, of materials and processes can be very overwhelming to our students. However, while there is diversity, there are very distinct characteristics and properties of living and non-living things. And this form the basis of classification and organization. Coupled with diversity in grade 7 is the theme on interaction. Living things interact with each other and with their environment. Whenever two systems or objects interact, they act or influence each other to cause some effect. The effect may be an observable change, like for example, the change in motion, shape, mass, or temperature to one or both of the objects or systems. Now, everyday events and processes usually involve multiple interactions occurring simultaneously or in chains. And this is what grade 7 focuses on in terms of interaction. There are factors that affect the behavior of living and non-living things and the kind of interactions between and among them. Now, having the big themes of diversity and interaction, let me go to the quarter by quarter focus. In quarter 1, which deals on matter, we focus on the diversity of materials and the classification system of materials. Then in quarter 2, the levels of organization at the organism and ecosystem levels are emphasized. The diversity of the living components of the environment are tackled likewise, and how the non-living components affect the living things around them. In quarter 3, which focuses on force and motion, likewise energy, the modules deal on the description of motion of both living and non-living components of the environment. The different forms of energy that influence the behavior of living and non-living components of the environment are also emphasized. Lastly, in quarter 4, which is on Earth and space, grade 7, quarter 4, draws attention to the location of the Philippine archipelago with respect to bodies of water and land masses. There are many scientific explanations that will take place, though it may look like a social studies topic. Quarter 4 also leads to an appreciation for the varied resources and natural phenomena that affect people and the environment. Now, having an overview of the 4 quarters, let me just share with you some common features of each quarter. In each quarter, the prior knowledge of students is determined. And once this is done, understanding of these concepts and skills are deepened through varied hands-on and minds-on activities using the inquiry-based teaching as what Dr. Tan has explained earlier. Connections with real-life experiences are emphasized, as well as connections with other related topics in other subject areas whenever appropriate. Now, let me go to a more detailed description of the first quarter, the diversity of materials in the environment. Now, you might be thinking why grade 7 starts with materials or matter. Now, the rationale for this is that since first year science teaches or starts the students with scientific investigations, we have incorporated the conduct of scientific investigations within the topics covered for the first quarter. Having said that, it means also that the activities in the first quarter lend themselves easier to doing simple or guided inquiry to a semi-guided investigation. Now, on your screen, you see the content coverage for quarter 1. Solutions, substances and mixtures, elements and compounds, acids and bases, metals and non-metals. Now, the development of ideas about materials, if you will observe here, begins with awareness of solutions, which students often encounter every day as liquid mixtures. Further awareness of materials in terms of the components they are made of, such as substances, elements, compounds, are taken up in modules 2, 3, and 5. Likewise, students will also study the properties of a special group of compounds, acids and bases, in module 4. Now, we would like to emphasize that the development of ideas about materials in grade 7 start the teaching of concepts at the macro view, or the tangible and visible. That's why we begin with solutions which they encounter every day. The explanations at the submicroscopic or the atomic and molecular level are shared at appropriate doses, enough to be processed by the students. So you will see in the module that discussions on atoms or molecules and molecules are not present in grade 7. They will be dealt with in grade 8. Consequently, the use of chemical symbols and equations is reserved for higher grade levels. Now, the experiences gained through these different hands-on activities and inquiry or scientific investigations will allow the students to transform any information they obtain into a form that they can use in their own personal and community context. And this is what we want them to learn. Now, also, it is very obvious that the modules veer away from teaching science that is textbook-centered or textbook-based to that which incorporates interactive and inquiry-based learning experiences. Now, we have used as reference the National Science Education Standards of the U.S. National Research Council, and they list several inquiry and investigative skills like describing objects and phenomena. These have been mentioned by Dr. Tan, where identifying questions that can be answered through investigations, designing and conducting scientific investigations using appropriate tools and techniques to gather, analyze, and interpret data, develop descriptions, explanations, predictions, and models using evidence. And this last bullet will be more emphasized in grade 8, thinking critically, recognizing alternative explanations and predictions, which can be observed if you have started using the modules for quarter 1, communicating scientific procedures and explanations, and using mathematics in all of scientific inquiry. Now, the role of the science teacher in the use of these modules, the role of the science teachers in these modules is that of guiding and intervening throughout the process of investigation. It is not feeding facts and content for the students to memorize. Gradually, as the students do scientific inquiry through the simple investigations they do in class, they will gain more independence in looking for evidence to answer questions as they move from guided inquiry to full investigations. So, another feature of the modules is that there is a pre-test, post-test in the teacher's guide. The pre-test will indicate the student's prior knowledge and also their alternative conceptions or misconceptions. The post-test will indicate the extent of students' comprehension of the concepts or the student's persistent misconceptions. Now, these are all the contents of the modules in Teacher's Guide for Grade 7. And we hope that you can also give your feedback as you utilize them in your respective classrooms. While there may be suggested time frames for these modules, I believe that the time element will strongly depend also on the type of students that are handled or the type of students in a particular class. So while those are not prescriptive, the entire quarter 1 coverage will be fairly covered because we have given an allowance in the utilization of these modules. So thank you, and we hope that you can maximize the use of these modules.
Dr. Ferido's presentation centered on grade 7 science and also on the inquiry approach. Thank you very much, Dr. Ferido. Now at this point, we'll be addressing some of your questions here. I've noted them down. May we ask Dr. Tan to join us again? Ma'am, you may turn on your audio at this point. So both of you might want to answer, or just one of you might want to answer the questions. Let me read to you some of this. There's one here that's from the Congressional National High School. Each module has experiments, and sometimes the materials are not available here in our school or community. So may we ask if you could suggest some alternative activities in grade 7? So I think the first grading period has focused on the chemistry. Maybe Dr. Ferido can suggest or can take up this question.
Yes, maybe I can
Which?
answer better which materials in which activities um, are somehow problematic because in the modules, very common materials found in the kitchen and even in the market are utilized. I saw maybe in only on the topic of compounds and substances, maybe there are a few materials there, but the author or the developer had alternative suggested materials in case the suggested ones are not available in the school.
Okay, so I hope that answers the question. We also have another one here about not being able to finish the 5 to 8 hours devoted to
Grading
to the
6.
science class. 5 to 8 hours.
Uh,
Um,
uh, can I answer that question?
I think that's 5 to 8 hours a week.
The 5 to 8 hours is a suggestion for each of them. Some of the modules have 8 to. It depends on the module actually. So one module can last 8 hours or 10 hours, but I think the teacher can make a decision on how flexible that number of hours is. But I think when those number of hours are estimated, it is based on the idea that uh, this these topics are discussed not by lectures or not by very deep explanation of concepts, because the activities will help students understand the concept. So if you spend too much time in focusing on explaining all the concepts that cover that particular activity, then you will really will not have enough time to cover the suggested topics in the module. So I think it is very important that the teacher first understands what the objective of that activity is, so that there will be a limitation as well of the content that will need to be explained. So as I said, it is a suggestion. 8 to 10 is already, I think, 2 weeks for every module, and that's long enough based on the exercises that we have tried in the at NISMED.
Okay, so let me just go back to there's a follow-up question on the availability and substitutes for specific materials listed in the activities. There's another one, follow-up from Mavic here. What about the magnetic stirrer? Is there an alternative tool for that? And also, one note here, the videos listed up are not available.
Dr. Ferido, you'd like to take up that magnetic stirrer thing?
The magnetic stirrer can be replaced by any glass stirrer that you can use. And the activity of the author of that module is also has recommended another topic. I mean another substitute in case or replacement in case the school does not have that. In other words, we are not limited by very basic equipment or materials, but that is more on the high-end requirement. Now, regarding the video, they have to that has been put up, I believe, in our repository of resources in NISMED at Agimat, which they can also access. We will tell the author to check this and put it and upload it again.
Right. We will just follow up on the same activity issue. Here is a question from again from the Congressional National High School. Due to large class size, let me see. I'm losing that question. Due to the big class size, we had a hard time to facilitate the activities in school. Is it really necessary to conduct all the given activities found in each module? Alright. So large class and the number of activities to be completed per module.
Okay, maybe both of us can answer
Yes.
that. But first,
Yeah, we can answer that.
If there is a big class, then it has to be managed in a way that groups are formed. So if groups are formed, then the students can do the activities in the module. Now, there is no need to process all the answers of each group and by presenting the results on Manila paper on the board. It's a matter of going around the classroom and checking and discussing with the students and then asking maybe one or two groups to present the results. But the teacher has to process this as the activities are being done, while the activities are being done, and then also at the end. So there is no need to do the usual practice of asking each group to present their results to the whole class.
Okay. Dr. Tan, would you like to add
Well,
anything
I would
to
just
that?
like to follow up what Dr. Ferido said. The most important thing is uh, in a class, the processing of the results of the activities are important in deriving the concepts. So, as has been mentioned by Dr. Ferido, for as long as the processing is done very well, uh, the teacher does not have to really ask every group to make a presentation, but we would like to emphasize that the activities are important to derive the lesson, but these activities can be done by groups, but it can also be done as demonstration teaching if it's really very difficult to get all the equipment that are required for say 6 or 8 groups. So you can do a demonstration teaching and do inquiry as well as you demonstrate and make the processing as smooth as possible so that the understanding of concepts will be very clear and we don't allow misconceptions to develop, to arise.
Right.
Uh,
Let me ask my co-host
Actually,
there, Mike.
I,
Yes, Dr. Ferido?
I
Dr.
read
Ferido?
here a question that, yes, can you hear?
Mm.
There's
Yes.
a question here that
Go ahead,
there
ma'am.
is no need from Eugene. If there's no need to do
Uh-huh.
the practice of asking each member of the, so it may appear like a mere demonstration. It then the inquiry method is not really emphasized. I don't
No.
think so. Presentation of a group result does not mean that the inquiry approach is not emphasized. the students, while working on the activities, are inquiring into what they are observing. And that's how we hone the inquiry skills of the students. It is not only the drawing of conclusions at the end. So it is going around. Of course, the 65 members in each class will not be given attention in one meeting. So there should be a way of talking with other students in the among the 65 in the next meeting. Since how many days are spent for science anyway in a week?
5 days.
5 days. 5 days in a week. Okay, so I think we're picking up if we will see similar questions. I'd like to request my co-hosts John and Mike to please feel free to add. At this point, we're discussing about activities and facilitating them in school in terms of which materials we will be using, as well as how to deal with large class sizes. All right. We will go back to that if you have questions in that respect again. Meanwhile, I see this one question popping up every now and then from Mona Sasing, who will handle the NATSI 1 and 2 in grades 11 and grade 12. So do you have ideas about that at this point? Dr. Ferido, Dr. Dan?
Yeah,
Who will
we
handle the NATSI 1 and 2?
members of, yeah, we are members of the committee that is framing also the 11 and 12, and this is made up of people from the technical panel of general education at the university level. So what is being proposed, and I think this is it is too early to tell you now, because this will be done in 2016, but there is already a transition group who is preparing for this. But what the people are, what the group is saying is that if the high schools like State University high schools and other schools who are ready to offer 11 and 12 using their own faculty, then they can do it. But one of the things that they're looking at is maybe the GE, the teachers who are handling GE will teach NATSI 1 and 2 temporarily. But one question here is that I think I came up with one. I came across one question here about what's that?
Just a while ago, one teacher saying demonstration. Is that the one you're referring to, ma'am?
Related to the
parents
12. I'm trying to look at some of the questions related to 11 and 12.
Parents ask about the topics included in grade 11 and 12. They will be credited in college.
Yeah. Of course, if this is 11 and 12, then this is still basic education. There is no such thing as a basic education that will be credited in the college level. So if that size is offered as 11 and 12, it is still basic education. So adjustments will be done at the university level to make the transition smooth from basic education to university.
Okay, so, all right. There's another one here about why is it that during my seminar in some place Ateneo de Naga University sponsored by FAPE, the first quarter is all about the investigatory process, and next is diversity of materials in the environment. Is it okay, ma'am? I think it starts with the investigatory process.
I think one of the reasons, and Dr. Ferido can support, one of the reasons why we integrated investigatory projects in the first quarter is that we don't want to waste so much time focusing on any kind of topic. So we want to focus the investigations on context related to solutions to substances and mixtures, because that's one of the reasons. So if they did some activities on investigator projects for as long as it is within the context of grade 7 topics, then that may be all right. But if the topics were beyond the grade 7, then I think we have a problem.
I think he's referring to the content that appears in the curriculum guide. I think the first part of grade 7 talks about how to, well, the investigatory skills or something like that.
Yeah, that is why I was trying to say that investigations, the skills of investigation has been integrated or introduced in the first quarter. So it limited the context of the investigations to first quarter topics so that we can go deep in it. If, as I said, if the training was focused on investigatory projects and beyond the topic for grade 7, then I think there is a problem on that because the students cannot apply it directly to the topic that they are handling at grade 7. So, mas maganda, if it's better that we introduce investigatory projects using the topics or questions that children are interested at their grade level, not topics that may be learned in college or maybe learned in higher grades, because they will learn those topics later on. So if there are questions that they want to focus on addressed at their own level at grade 7, then that's okay.
Okay, there was an earlier question about if you can provide some information about the grading system for grade 7 science. At this point.
Well, there was a memorandum on the new assessment format that DepEd is suggesting, and what we gathered from yesterday's meeting is that there is a new guideline on how the assessment will be done. Well, basically the change is on the how the grades will be interpreted, because the means by which you gather information about what each students know and can do will still be the same instrument that you use. For example, like the worksheet, whatever is the majority, the test, and so on. So this had been the scores, I think, had been translated to a more qualitative description, so that there's a range. So maybe we can wait for the new guideline to be released. I think they will release it, or if it has not been released yet, it will be released very soon, within this week or next week, in the regional division or regional directors, what you call it, they have their website and so on and so on. We had a meeting on this yesterday.
There's another question back again. Question I was about to read is something that says, can we modify some of the activities that would require more time preparing and the availability of materials? So what have you to say about this, Dr. Tan and Dr. Ferido? Modifying the activities that needed time.
Yeah,
to prepare.
The objectives, the standards, the objectives are very clear. So if you think there are activities that would lead to the same achievement of the concepts and skills, it's okay. Just be sure that the activity itself will lead to the understanding or to the learning of concepts that are supposed to be learned at that grade level, that quarter. Because there are many activities, I'm sure there are many activities that can be used to develop that concept. And as I said, the teacher has to make sure that that activity will really help the student understand the concepts, the major ideas, the skills that we want them to acquire before they can move on to another grade level.
Okay. There's one thing I'd like to suggest people who are, if you wanted to try other activities aside from those that have been included in the student modules, we would like to get your feedback about which activities you have substituted and which activities you use to substitute those that are included in the student modules. So we'd like to encourage everyone to use the discussion thread in KaSaMa Teachers that's devoted to the K-12 science webinar. We would like your input on the activities that you have changed, and also we would like to request you to share with us the activities that you used instead. I think that would be a good way of providing feedback to the writers, the developers, as well as a way of sharing to other teachers, science teachers, resources such as those that they can use if they have the same conditions in their respective schools. So again, please tell us which activities you've changed, and share with us the activity that you used as substitute for those activities.
25.
Sending pictures or sending the activity sheets itself would be very helpful for us as well. We have, it's now 13 minutes past the hour of 5. We have initially informed you that this is a 1-hour webinar, but we have requested extension of up to 30 minutes. So we have about 16 minutes left for more questions from the attendees. In case we have missed on some earlier questions, our chat window is very busy. Has become very busy, so please don't hesitate to type them again so we can take a look at them once again. Okay, so let me see. If I have others here, I've listed down.
Sel, can we ask them?
Oh yes.
What do they do in the last day? They have 4 hours per week in science, and there's a question here. Students tend to be lazy to accomplish the writing. Can this be explained a little bit more? Because I would like to respond to this question.
Okay, so may I know who's brought that up? Congressional National High School. I'm giving audio right to Congressional National High School.
Students tend to be lazy to accomplish the writing. What does that mean?
Okay, so I'm requesting the teacher from Congressional National High School who has made that question. I'm giving you audio right. I'm enabling audio right now. So could you please come to the microphone on your PC? Or if you have difficulty connecting to an audio or microphone, can you write down a little bit more, elaborate on that question? What writing task is required from students?
Yeah, and is the 4 hours actually a DepEd order? And what do they do on the last day?
Okay, so we're going to come back to Congressional National High School as soon as they've made the audio connection. Are there other questions we've missed earlier? Yes, Mike, yes.
Ma'am Celia, here's a question from Miss Julie Roadiel. She's saying that in Region 5, they use the UPD process in the discussion of their grade 7 science lessons, and she's asking if that's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, Dr. Ferido, Dr. Tan, UBD to deliver grade 7 science.
What do you mean by UBD in delivering science? UBD is an approach to curriculum development what do you mean by delivering science using UBD? Can you make it a little bit because we might be coming from different perspective.
Dr. Tan, Miss Julie is referring to the UBD format.
You mean the explore, firm up? That's what the UBD teachers are saying. And how much time do you put in each of those things? It is very important to understand what those stages are and how it is being developed, because based on the materials that we have seen, it looks like there is something wrong in the interpretation of that concept of deepening or exploring, firming up, deepening, and transferring. So maybe we can get a little more information about what how they do it, so that we can respond appropriately on how what we are proposing and what they're using can be aligned or something like that.
Okay, so probably we will be able to address that question better if we have more details about how that's taking place in the schools. So I'll encourage those who ask that question to please once more write it up in the discussion page in KaSaMa Teachers, so we can have Dr. Tan and Dr. Ferido contribute their ideas about using the UBD format to deliver grade 7 science.
Ma'am Celia,
there's a
Congressional
question
National
here.
High School has
Yes.
Congressional National High School has a microphone now.
Okay. So they have a microphone right now. Is Leia helping out? You can turn on your mic now. You can click on the down arrowhead on the microphone icon. Okay, so are we hearing Las Marinas or Congressional National High School? Okay, so we'll get back to you when you're ready. There had been several times that our attendees are asking about the transcript of this webinar or about this webinar itself, especially those who are having audio problems earlier. May I just announce for everybody that this webinar is being recorded, and the full recording will be made available on the discussion thread about K-12 science webinars. And also questions that we were not able to answer, we will be shortly ending, so we will be posting those on the discussion thread for our resource persons to respond to. Or of course anybody can contribute to the answers as well. So again, this webinar is recorded. The link will be made available in KaSaMa Teachers. Questions that have not been answered or that needed elaboration before they could be answered will again be reposted. And we will also be posting all the questions as a separate file, so people can see the kind of questions that are coming out during the webinar. So I hope that should facilitate the ongoing conversations, sharing, and collaboration with regards K-12 science, especially grade 7 at this point.
Still, maybe I can give some inputs for now. a little bit
yes,
of what
ma'am.
has been discussed at the conveners level. We were made to understand from the secretary to their secretary of programs and projects that there will only be one K to grade 7 or one approach that will be used for all public schools starting June. That was very clear, clearly suggested to us during the meetings and even before we started the training of trainers. It will be modules that will be prepared for grade 7 based on the philosophy that had been described earlier. So if there are other things that they're using, then they have to align their approaches and align the content of what they're teaching the students, because the students will have difficulty when they will be assessed based on the grade 7 K to 12 approaches and based on the content and skills that are developed in that grade level.
Okay. So that should provide us some guidance. All right. So is the Congressional National High School ready with their elaboration of the question? Or is it the division of Dasmariñas? Okay, so may I have the name of the one asking from Dasmariñas division?
I'm Miss Larissa Manlolo from Congressional
Okay.
National High School.
You're coming okay, ma'am. So go
Yes,
ahead
we're
with your
here.
question, ma'am.
Ma'am, regarding po sa 1 hour cooperative learning, so we can feed the students for 5 hours per week instead of 4 hours only. So we have hard time to finish the module, and also the student tends to be lazy to finishing their paper output, written report or written output. So ano po ba yung
These are for okay. So they are required to write up a report on what? On what?
Ma'am, di ba in some activities may mga questions. So doing the activities pa lang, it takes time. Yung 1 hour na po yun. And then yung pag-a-answer, minsan pag pinapadala po namin sa bahay, hindi na rin po nila sinasagutan.
Hindi nasasagot. Okay.
So kami ulit.
But not all students are doing that. Some students are able to answer. What seems to be the problem? Is it communication?
We always remind them, ma'am eh. We have 100
Dati po ba hindi sila... Dati po ba
Dati
walang
kasi 5
ganyang problema?
hours.
Sorry, ma'am.
Dati po ba hindi naging problema yung students not completing their work?
Ma'am, hindi naman po. Lahat naman po nagagawa.
So ang problema ninyo ay because it's 4 hours a week, 4 hours a week, tapos may 1 day sila na writing reports lang? Yun ba ang in-implement ninyo?
Baka po, ma'am, siguro po kulang din po kasi ng yung sa module po yung hard copy. Kasi wala po kaming hard copy nun. Kailan po ba yun mai-deliver sa amin dito?
The
Okay,
modules
so,
were distributed, Sel, ganito na lang. The modules, as what Dr. Quijano said yesterday in the meeting, the division offices had been given CD so that they can provide, even budget, so that they can provide for teachers, what do you call it? It's multiplying or printing the modules that have been distributed. That was the idea that we got yesterday. There were money released for that purpose.
Thank you po.
Okay. Thank you, Dasmariñas division teacher. Okay, so, oh, meron pang isa.
Marcel?
Oh, from the
Apa.
audience.
Ah,
I'm one of the teachers from Dasmariñas National High School po. I just want to ask about the grading system
uh-huh.
because
Grading
up to now we are still at loss about the grading system.
Actually, sa totoo lang, hindi rin, naghihintay kami ng advice from DepEd, basically the high school, on how the new assessment will be done. Because what we were told, there is a new set of guidelines that will be released, or maybe should have been released by this time. So, siguro check on the website of DepEd from time to time, or you can check with your division offices if there are new guidelines that are released, because they have improved or they have revised the guidelines that were presented during the National Training of Trainers.
Oh, okay. So, ma'am, may I just reiterate that this is a different set of guidelines with regards assessment than those contained in DepEd Memorandum Order number 158, series of 2011?
Yeah, that the understanding is that there have been some revisions lately.
Oh, okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So,
List
that's a
guidelines
good
to
input for all of us.
clarify some of those issues that were not clear, they said.
Yes, ma'am. We have another concern here, ma'am, about the remedial classes of those students who will receive a grade of B. Because during our seminar, we were informed that the teacher who will give B to students will conduct a special remedial class for 4 hours in a week. So we are interested to know when we will do this remedial classes, ma'am.
Oh, medyo hindi ko yata masasagot yan. I think it is the school who will decide on how they will address the concerns of the students as well as of teachers. My understanding is that the superintendents have been oriented on this process so that the teachers can be advised appropriately.
May I just clarify for our attendees that NISMED is involved in the development of the student modules and then the teaching guides and the training of trainers and other components of the K-12 basic education program implementation, like assessment, like details about class schedules. Those are, I think, part of the DepEd guidelines, implementing guidelines for the program. So while we would like very much to help out on clarifying issues about these topics, at this point in today's webinar, we have focused mostly on the philosophy as well as on this particular curriculum features of K-12 science. We may be able to invite some resource persons from DepEd later on in a webinar to clarify these matters with you. So again, I apologize that we will not be able to cover to cover your questions with regards assessment and the scheduling and similar stuff.
We have another concern. Last na lang po.
Okay.
Tungkol po dun
Oh,
sa
sige, last
module.
po, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi po, we receive only a soft copy of module in chemistry and bio, but we have a problem in physics and in earth science. Wala pa rin po kami na-receive.
You will get that maybe by September. The modules, the third quarter modules are with IMCS, and I think they're finalizing the whatever they're doing with it, and the fourth quarter will be released by next week. So IMCS, I think, will release those modules on time for October, maybe by September, early September, so that the teachers can also prepare for them.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. Maraming salamat din po. And again, for the questions that I'm not sure, we've tried very much, very hard to cover all the questions that we see in the chat window here. But in case we've missed any of your questions, please, please be patient. We will post them again in the discussion thread in KaSaMa Teachers. And you can go back and check on the answers or on the replies, and you can continue on with the discussion about K-12 science. At this point, I would like to thank everyone for joining us, and most especially thank Dr. Tan and Dr. Ferido for sharing their inputs with us on K-12 science curriculum. I hope that in one way or another we have been able to clarify some of the questions and answered some of the questions in your minds. Definitely we will not be able to answer all due to the interest of time, and also the technology can allow us only to do this kind of sharing. But I think we have done a big step by facilitating this kind of webinar experience for our science and math teachers. So let me just wrap up by showing to you a slide to give you an idea of what to do next after this webinar, and how else we would like to continue to support our science teachers in their implementation of the K-12 science curriculum. So may I just switch to the next presentation. There's a screen I'd like you to see. Okay, so what you're seeing is actually a list of some of the things we can do from now on. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar. There's going to be another one, the second one in the series, again on the 4th Friday of August. And the topic will be focusing on the second grading period, or the second quarter, living things and their environment. So you will see more explanation on this. And we also would like to hear your feedback about today's webinar. There's a link here on the page that you can click. We also would like to show you, before you do the survey, I'd like to show you the webinar discussion in KaSaMa Teachers. So please bear with me. I'm going to share with you my screen. Just hold on a minute. I'm going to share my screen. So just okay. So you're supposed to see the discussion page in KaSaMa Teachers that is devoted to the K-12 science webinar series. So notice that in the discussions page, there's one discussion that's entitled K-12 science webinars, discuss, share, collaborate here. This is where you get the schedule of the other webinars this year. Down here, you have the schedule and the topics for August, September, and also October. And again, you will see that there is a reply box here. You can type in questions, comments, or feedback about the webinar and the different topics. And then if you want, as I mentioned earlier, if there are activities that you have used instead of the ones in the student modules, you can talk about this, describe those activities, and then you can use this upload file to share with us the activity sheet of that particular learning activity that you have used instead. And so we can continue on with the discussion right here in KaSaMa Teachers. I know there are many things that are in your mind, some questions that have left unexpressed and unanswered. So we would like to encourage you to go to this site, to our discussion page, for that continuing conversation about K-12 science. Okay, so again, the survey form and others, you can continue to chat. We will complete our extension. We've gone past our extension, would like to wrap up soon. See you again next month, August 24, for the webinar on living things and their environment. Again, I'd like to invite everyone to please join us in the discussion thread about today's webinar at KaSaMa Teachers. Encourage your co-teachers in science and math to join KaSaMa Teachers for more professional development opportunities. Earlier there was a question about whether we're going to do a webinar series for the K-12 math as well. We're looking into that, and we're having talks with our math group about doing the same series for K-12 math. We will inform you. We will keep you posted. Just continue to visit KaSaMa Teachers, and you'll get the latest from NISMED.